today I'm thinking about reflecting on how far we've come and how we perceive some of our wins or sometimes some of our losses, which could be wins as well. I think this is particularly true as we age, we change and we become different, or we become capable of different things, particularly physically, and I've noticed that in my own body, particularly after knee surgery. And I had a family holiday recently in Rarotonga, and one of our family members had the crazy idea that we might do the round the Rarotonga road race, 31 Ks. I was never going to run it, some of them did. But there was a walking section. So we entered the walking section, we trained to walk 31 Ks, and we're feeling quite confident. Got to the start line at 5:30 in the morning with everybody else, realised there was only about 25 of us walking, everybody else was more serious and running this race. And within about 5 minutes of the start gun going, everyone had disappeared. Could not see another soul. They were all miles in front. So spent the whole race coming last. Got over the finish line last. Now, that doesn't sound like a win, and this is where I'm reflecting. I reckon that particularly for myself and some of our family members that were walking and had never really done anything like that before, it was a win that we'd made the start line. It was a win that we could walk 31 Ks, although it wasn't easy. It was a win that we carried on even when we were sat at bus stops plastering up our blisters and in the burning heat thinking, what the hell are we doing? And it's a win that I've learned to accept the things my body can do now rather than focusing on the things that it can't. Because I think this is the problem with progress. We always see more and better. And we forget sometimes that those little wins that might ordinarily feel like losses because they're not what we're used to doing are actually progress markers and wins that we can reflect on. So it's a win that I made the start line. It's a win that I made the finish line, even though it was coming last. It's a win that I was able to train and walk that far, particularly 1 year on from major knee surgery. And sometimes we take those things for granted. Basic things like walking. And for any of you that have had mobility issues, ill health, we know how much we miss that stuff. There's that saying that you might have a lot of problems on your mind, but when your health is a problem, you only have one problem on your mind, and it impacts everything. And I think sometimes, particularly as we age, we have these expectations that we've lost all of the things we could do, as opposed to reflecting on what we've gained and what we can do. Particularly comparing ourselves, when I think about myself and knee surgery a year ago, comparing what I can do now to what I can do then, and it's never going to be what I did in my 20s and 30s, but it's certainly better than it was a year ago. So when we reflect on how far we've come, often it's that temptation to compare to others or to compare to ourselves 20 years ago, rather than knowing what we can do on any given day with our body changes, and it's always good enough, and it might not be what it used to be, but it can still be a win. And I think this is important when we're reflecting on progress and how we view some of those progress markers, because I think so often we can be in this space of beating ourselves up because we're not far enough along. We haven't done as much as everybody else, or we can't run as fast as everybody else. And yet when we compare ourselves to ourselves and our goals, those what we perceive as losses or not good enoughs become wins. And I think that's a really important point to remember.